March 12th, Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia was arrested by ICE after he finished his shift as a sheet metal worker. He's pulled over with his son in the car. There's this big dust up. His wife is warned by DHS to take their son away or they'll get Child Protective Services involved. This family has 3 children. All 3 of them have special needs. On March 15th, despite being granted protection from deportation by an immigration judge in 2019, Abrego Garcia is put on a deportation flight to El Salvador, and he ends up in CICOT, which is a notorious high-security prison specifically designed for violent gangs like MS-13. It is an intentionally brutal facility. It's overcrowded by most standards, and they mix up members of rival gangs on purpose, knowing that violence will result. On March 31st, an ICE official files a sworn declaration admitting that the deportation resulted from a, quote, administrative error. That same official stated that although ICE was aware of Mr. Abrego Garcia's legal protection, he was deported anyway due to an oversight. On April 4th, federal judge Polizinas finds that the Trump administration is in clear violation of court orders and orders them to return Abrego Garcia to the U.S. by April 7th. The Trump administration appeals this ruling, sending the case to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fourth Circuit. On April 7th, before the Fourth Circuit has a chance to rule, the Justice Department files an emergency application with the Supreme Court requesting a temporary stay of the April 7th deadline. Chief Justice John Roberts has granted that stay, pausing the lower court's deadline while the Supreme Court reviews the case. Some of that is confusing to me. I'm sure some of it is confusing to others as well, but here to help us clear some of that up is a legal expert, Jeremy Rosenthal. Jeremy, thanks for being with us today. Appreciate you making the time.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so the Trump administration admitted a mistake by deporting Mr. Abrego Garcia, even though there was a court ruling saying that he shouldn't be sent to El Salvador. How serious is that mistake from a legal standpoint?
Well, serious enough to result in this man being in a cage on the other side of the world away from his family. Probably once this all gets straightened out, this gentleman's probably going to have a pretty good lawsuit against the government.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I figured. The Trump administration says that this man is somehow linked to MS-13, but we haven't really seen any solid proof of that, or at least proof that would fly in a court of law. How often do you see the government make claims like this without showing any evidence? Isn't it important for us to see evidence in a case like this?
Absolutely, and you don't see this at all. What the government is doing is they're invoking what's called the Alien Extradition Act, which has been invoked several times. It's meant for the time of war, and in the past it does have an infamous history to it. It was the justification in World War II for interning Japanese people in America. It was also used in World War I and World War II. We've heard also that Nazis were used. It was to deport Nazis. But the linchpin, as you've already kind of hit on, is due process, right? Number one, I mean, let's just, for argument's sake, let's just give the administration the wartime whatever, okay? Mm-hmm. Which that can be confusing, right? Does Congress declare war? Does the president have to wait for September the 12th in order to start using this in other circumstances? Well, let's just give him that. Even if it was a time of war, these people still get due process, right? We don't deport people because we think they're dangerous criminals. We deport them because we prove that they're dangerous criminals. And now this is how we deport people with soccer tattoos and tattoos that we mistake for and administrative errors, putting people in harm's way. That a previous judge ruled, look, if you deport this man to El Salvador, it's important enough to keep him in America because he could get hurt, he could get brutalized, he could get killed down there. So it is fundamental that there be some type of check and balance. And if the executive is just going to act in a way that is completely unsupervised, well, in America, we just don't do the trust us model of government. We're not really okay with that.
Right. Yeah. I that's a nice, concise way of putting that. You know, there's a lot of people across the country who are not sympathetic to this man, and that's fine, I guess, if you want to be that way. But the fact of the matter is, we have laws in this country, and we are supposed to give a damn when they are not followed in a case like this. You know, you're afforded due process in this country, no matter what your immigration status is, and it should bother you, whether it's this administration or some other administration, just dead ass ignoring that and then acting offended when the judiciary comes back and says, "Hey, man, you can't do that."
Well, look, and to put it to you this way, either you believe in the Constitution or you don't.
Yeah.
And the Constitution very clearly, in certain sections, applies to citizens, and that means the right to vote. And in certain instances, it applies to persons. And it has been it's been held very long, and it is very clear jurisprudence over the last 200 plus years that that means if you are on our soil, regardless of your status, you are entitled to due process under the Fifth Amendment, under the 14th Amendment,
right.
Under the Sixth Amendment. You're entitled to these rights. And they're not really debatable. And if you're angry about it, don't get angry at the judge. Get angry at Thomas Jefferson, right? Get angry at Alexander Hamilton. They were the ones who gave you these Bill of Rights. I suppose they didn't do the 14th Amendment. That was after their time. So I'll give them on that one. But the Bill of Rights, I mean, it applies in most instances to persons. And everybody means everybody, and if you think about it this way, look, what would they do to somebody like this in a country like El Salvador? They would put you in a cage without a hearing, right? And either America is going to be like that or we're not, and that the choice is ours.
Thank you so much for that. Going back to the kind of legal turns here. So the appeals court agreed with the judge's initial decision before the case went to the Supreme Court. What does that tell you, Mr. Rosenthal, about how strong the lower court's ruling was, and how might this affect other cases like this?
Well, and to also sort of let you know how close it was, I believe it was stayed at a 5-4 vote.
Yeah.
Meaning that if the issue in front of the court yesterday was, does the government have to comply by midnight? That was the issue yesterday. The issue now is not only was this legal, but is there some other date that might work? So I don't think there's any question that the government is in error here. They've admitted as such. The legal issue is now that this person is in El Salvador, can we get him back? Can we legally get him back? Is he subject to our control? Can a judge order the United States of America to bargain for or to somehow retrieve somebody that has been deported in error? I think it's a very close issue, and it's one that probably long term I have a hard time thinking is going to go the way that the government wants it to go. But yes, all of these decisions are going to be very, very close ones. Because these are novel issues. We've not seen them before. And look, I mean, the administration, they dust off this statute from 1798, and maybe it fits and maybe it doesn't. That's what courts do. And the courts are no strangers to taking really old laws and seeing if they work today.
Yeah.
So I do think that there's a lot to unpack here with these things.
The government is arguing that it doesn't have control over Mr. Abrego Garcia anymore because now he's in El Salvador, right? He's already in the prison. But does that argument hold any water? I mean, can't they just get President Bukele on the phone and say, hey, we sent this guy to you. Can you please send him back? I mean, how hard is that?
I think the court could potentially, and that's a great point. The court's jurisdiction, if you will, a United States District Court judge or the Supreme Court, for that matter, it begins right there in Washington, D.C. in the courtroom, and and it ends at the authority of the national government. I don't know that our Supreme Court can order the head of state from another country to do something. What they could potentially do is order our government to make some pretty darn good efforts and some good faith efforts to get them back. But to some degree, I mean, and maybe it's a really convenient argument that the administration makes, but to some degree they're right. If legally we can't, if the Supreme Court can't order a foreign entity to do something, then our government's abilities are likewise limited.
Interesting. Okay. So there are some people like me who are looking at the government's behavior, in front of these assorted courts. And I got to wonder if this is just an intentional violation of the law, because if they just make a mistake and say, oops, it was an administrative error that we accidentally sent this guy who had legal protected status. We accidentally deported him. Our bad. We're going to do everything we can to bring him back. Okay, people make mistakes, but clearly you're, operating in some sort of good faith here. But the fact that they've done the complete opposite of that makes me wonder if they just did this on purpose. And if that's the case, what does that mean when the government does something like that? What are the potential consequences there?
Well, it's certainly not healthy, and there's been a lot of rhetoric. There's been a lot of court bashing, and there's been a lot of judge bashing over these things, and that's not healthy for the rule of law. It's important in this country that we believe in our judges, and not just for this, right? I mean, this is on the legal landscape is a 0.00001% issue. It's important when a judge tells you that your ex-wife has to give the kids back over the weekend. Yeah. It's important, or the judge says, you better not drink while you're on probation. Or if a judge says, I'm going to rule that this contract is null and void. It's important that the people in front of that judge believe it. I don't get to go tell a judge, or I don't get to tell my client, rather, look, you can keep the kids on the weekend. This judge is a jerk and nobody likes him. Can't do that. I'm not allowed to do that, right? And I might be right. The judge may not be in the world. But that's kind of where the rubber meets the road. And to your point, the administration has certainly been flirting with some type of contempt of the local judges. Now, are these paper cut infractions calculating? Well, this one we can kind of push off. I mean, it's all fun and games until the U.S. Supreme Court is defied. That's not been done, and I don't know that will be done. But that's when I think you're going to see the real test of this administration is what happens. It's okay for you to mock Judge Boasberg or some other Obama appointee. It's John Roberts telling you something, or Brett Kavanaugh or Amy Coney Barrett telling you to do something. Right. What are you going to do? That's a great question.
I guess they're going to impeach them. I don't know. I keep saying, you got to impeach all these judges for doing their job. It doesn't make any sense to me, but I don't think it's supposed to. All right, last one, Jeremy. If the Supreme Court rules that Mr. Abrego Garcia should be brought back to the United States, is that going to set a precedent that we'll see referred to in future situations? Like, could this lead to changes in the way that deportations are handled broadly, especially like this case where it seems really clear that this person's legal rights were ignored or violated?
I think in this circumstance, I think that you're definitely going to see that the courts are going to say, look, government, you're going to have to provide some due process even under this Alien Extradition Act. If you're going to get green lighted here, then you can't just ship people off in the middle of the night and not tell anybody about it. That's not going to work. Mm-hmm. There's going to have to be some due process here. So I do think that this will take a different shape or form going forward.
Great. We better pause there. Jeremy Rosenthal is a legal expert at a Dallas-based law firm. Man, thank you so much for making time today. We had a great conversation. Thanks for your time. You're working your way. Good luck out there, man.
Enjoyed it. Have a great day.
Thanks, Jeremy.